Hello everyone, my name is Lorthorn and welcome to How to Iron Spells! So, you want to be a wizard, you want to cast some magic. Well, you've come to the right place, as we are going to teach you all the bibbly-bobbly, magically-wagically stuff. So come with me to your first wizarding class, young student. Now, to become a wizard is quite simple. You, for one, need a book of wizardly guidance. To make this book of wizardly guidance, you will need a normal book and arcane essence. Arcane essence can be found out and about in the world, and in fact, one of the biggest, most important parts of doing wizardry is going about and stealing other people's magic stuff, because nothing can be earned through your own hard work, it must be taken for others. That is the wizard's way. So, to truly start out your journey as a wizard, you must begin with a journey. One place to start at is a pyramid in the desert, or any other ruin will do, and you must simply make your way into it safely. But once you've done that, all the new loot is yours, including that arcane essence. Oh, it looks amazing, delicious. Oh yeah, that's the stuff, arcane essence. There will also be spell scrolls, which you can use in the moment to do magic and consume the scroll, lose it forever, or you can save it for later and add it to your magic book. But whatever the case may be, if you come across something good, like lob creepers or diamonds, or this delicious arcane essence, collect it, hold on to it, use it for later, and don't dismiss it as random trash, as no, this is the true start, the true way to true arcane power. Of course, there are better and more suitable locations to travel to for other experiences in magic, such as a pyromancer's tower. Oh, these are lovely locations if we get a good look at. Tower, little ruined church thing, very pretty. And of course, the tower itself. This tower is very, very important. What you want to do is you want to enter into the tower, and you wish to climb up the tower. That's step number one, is climb all the way up the tower, up until the top, until you get to this peculiar level, which will have a box, usually with something good in it, like a gas tier and a fire magic spell, and also this pile of armor. Pile of armor. That's what we're here for. Then you want to stop the pile of armors any way it might have to climb. To get rid of that from it. You can't have it climbing on you now, can you? And you want to have a good height. Maybe give yourself like a little platform, a little room to work with. There we go. And you want to mine it. And now come to life as an ancient knight. And if you're not careful, it'll absolutely wreck your So, I recommend shooting it with an arrow. And finish it off with a sword. And it will drop Cinder Essence. Ooh, very early game nether scrap. And sometimes it's a giant sword. But more importantly than fighting this horrible beastie is the denizen below the tower. And that man is a master of fire magic, a pyromancer, non-hostile wizard who you can trade with. Various different things for various different stuff. He'll give you fire arrow, a furrowed map to show you alchemist trade routes. He'll give you spells. You can even buy candles and various stuff off him. However, his house also happens to have a considerably large amount of loot in it. But he gets really, really pissed off with you if you take his loot. He will attack you. And he's way stronger than you. He's a powerful wizard. You're not even a wizard yet. You just have scrolls. But you have something he doesn't. And that is boat supremacy. And then drag him away into some foreboding, forbidden corner. Seal him in to a lovely little tomb. And then you can tell him about the rabbits. Yes. Well, he's looking the other way. Just have patience as one tick at a time. Huzzah! And now, all his wonderful treasure is ours for the taking. Would you look at that epic ink, legendary ink. Didn't actually drop any arcane essence, the selfish bastard. We need that stuff. Oh, there it is. Well, still didn't drop it, but a fire rune, yes. Rare ink, uncommon ink. Oh, so much treasure, and it gets even better than that. As now his whole trove is ours. His table for doing spells, ours. His lectern with a book, ours. His chest full of arcane essence, blaze rods, and various different inks, candles, all of it ours. And if we want to, we can go down into his basement and take even more of his treasure with old books and a ring that grants immunity to frost damage. Ooh, amethysts, very useful stuff. Can't forget about those. Be on the lookout for these things. They'll give you your kickstart. The journey does not end there, though, because there is also Ice Mage's Tower for us to check out. Now, Ice Mages, however, are far less hospitable than Fire Mages. They are violent on sight, but they too, if you happen to come across them, have their own rules that you play by and go about with. So the Ice Mages happen to live below their towers, down in the deep ice. So to start off with the Ice Mage, you really just don't bother. You see, they live down there, but they don't live up here. So you just ignore them. You go up here. And you take their because they got a lot of it. And now it's yours. It's all your stuff. And then, of course, there is the village you can travel to. The village will happen to have a wizard's tower, which will have a friendly cleric in it. He has treasure too, and he is quite violent if you take it. Now, the cleric also has trades. They're rather limited. He does some healing potion trading and some sort of village book, which is actually quite a good book to get, so don't underestimate it. But he also is absolutely full of treasure. Now, if you want to steal his stuff, as he is a loot pinata like all the others are, the solution is simple and simply simple. There we go, yes. Ah, sweet, sweet loot is all ours. Ooh, holy runes, very useful. And of course, not only that loot is ours, but also the other loot he had bundled away and hidden in his tower. All of it is ours. Now, we can't trade with him anymore, but villages are a dime a dozen, and there'll be more of these guys around, and you can steal his divine pearls and his divine spells, like Divine Smite and Sunbeam and Guiding Bolt, which are all spells, I suppose. Very nice to have. And with that, I believe we've completed our field trip on how to start being a wizard. So let's get back to the classroom and explore it further. Ah yes, here we are again with much arcane essence now. And with this arcane essence, we must robe ourselves as any good wizard would. That is the start. To make yourself magically wandering robes, you just need leather armor, arcane essence, and you can craft the Wanderer's Magic Gear, which provides armor and also provides you with more mana. Mana, of course, is how you cast spells, and it makes you look quite dapper. And of course, what's a wizard without a jar full of eggs? Or a magic staff. The magic staff can be made with a shovel, arcane essence, and an iron rod. And that will give you the Greybeard staff. Ooh, and this gives you mana regen and spell power. And it really does make you look like a wizard. But of course, we must now get to how to do magic. So on to the next classroom class. The teacher there shall teach you what you need know next. Toodaloo. Right then, greetings class. Next, we will do how to actually do magic. Doing magic is very important if you want to be a wizard, mind you, so we are going to get right into it. So to do magic, one of the main things you'll want to do is to make a spellbook. Now, to make a spellbook, what you have to do is you have to get some copper, lovely copper ingots here, some string, and some paper. Slap it all together like this, and that will give you a flimsy journal, your first spellbook. Very nice. Then you want to take one of the spell scrolls you happen to find, maybe like a fireball or a blaze scroll. Some simple, straightforward, easy to do magic. Maybe a little gust or something, or perhaps a cone of cold. And perhaps also select your rings, such as your fire immunity ring and your ring of maximum mana. Now, when it comes to these rings, these fancy rings, you want to put them on your person. So the fire ward ring, we'll slap that on, and the silver ring for more magic will also attach that. Very nice. The magic starts when you make the inscription table. The inscription table is made with oak fences, oak slabs, and a book, and that will make the inscription table. You put the inscription table down, it's a bit awkward and long, but once you have it down, you can then take your flimsy journal, you can put it in there, and you can put your spells into it. So, put a spell into it, you just put a spell in, and you go scribble, 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 and boom, fireball is in your spell book. you can do that with all of your spells. It's very nice. And then you have a spell book, but you're not quite there yet. Now, next what you need to do is you need to look at your baubles again. You need to take your spell book, you need to put in the spell book, and then, you've got your spell book selection. Now, to cast spells is a little complicated, so try to follow along with me. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure your key bindings have no conflicts, as conflicts can be conflicting. So press escape, then go into your options and go into controls, then key bindings. Then you can scroll your way down until you find Iron Spells Spellbook. And you can look at cast spells, open spell wield, and spell scroll modifier. The modifier we don't need to worry ourselves with too much at this point. What we are interested in is V and R. So V has no conflicts for us. R does have a conflict though. And so we could try to remove that conflict by finding out what else it is, or see if it doesn't matter. So the conflict right now is caused by JIR recipe, so there's actually no conflict there. You can also choose the custom bind quick cast spells, but that is beyond the premise of this basic class. Now then, select the spells, you hold down R, and you can select from any spell in your spell book. Clicking on the spell will have it selected. Then if you press a V, you will channel your arcane powers, and boom, cast Fireball. You'll use up your mana, as you can see down there on your mana bar, and the spell has a cooldown. Then you can switch to a spell and cast it again. Now, if you happen to have your staff in your hand, instead of casting V to cast the spell, you can right-click and you'll cast the spell instead, using the staff. And that's how you do real power and real magic. Now, if we do the custom key bindings, you are rather limited. My mouse here happens to have extra buttons on it, so what I could do if I was so inclined is I could go into my controls key bindings and say for spellcasting slot number 1, we could do button 5, which is a weird button on my mouse. And then if I happen to, let's say, have the book in my hand, I'm distracted, then I go, Wacha! And I will cast the fireball as it's there. And then V, boom, brainstorm. So we can have the spells ready at a moment's notice. Now that is the long and the short of casting spells, so good job you. Of course, there's a little bit more that I can proceed to teach you in my class, and that is how to get blood. Yes, I love blood. Right, let's get some blood. So to get blood, what you want to do is you want to have an ordinary cauldron with a nice fire underneath it. Then you want to find yourself a monster, and you want to put it into the cauldron. And then it will start dying and boiling away, giving you a pot full of blood. Delicious. And then you can extract the blood at your own leisure with a normal bottle. There we go. Vial full of blood. Delicious. Right then, students, well, best luck on your next class. It shall be an interesting one. For now that you know how to cast spells, you shall learn how to craft spells. Right then, have I gotten a little bit too much into the RPing? Maybe a little bit too much for a how-to. So let's get how to craft spells. Right, so the crafting of spells is a very straightforward process. It does have a lot of steps to it though, so try to keep up. So one of the first things we were going to do is we are going to make some divine pearls. Why? Because we can. After that, we're actually going to make the important things. The first of them being a scroll forge. Scroll forge requires 4 crying obsidian and 3 polished deep slate. That will give you your spell forge. How does spell forge work? Well, it needs ink and it needs paper. And then you can take a spell catalyst, throw it in there, and craft a spell. So the divine pearl thrown into this will show us a list of different spells to work with, and it will tell us all the different divine spells we can make. So we can make divine smite, we can make wisp, healing circle, guiding bolt, fortified, blessing of life. To then craft the spell, you just click on it and then you yonk it out of there and you have the spell made. The components will get used up and you got the spell. Now this is a level 1 spell. If we want to make higher level spells, there are a few different ways to do that. One of them is to use more powerful inks. How do we get more powerful ink then for our spell crafting? Well, there is multiple ways to do that. One way is you can find better ink, such as the uncommon ink when we went and murdered that pyromancer, or you can upscale and craft better inks. So let's look at ink crafting. Now, to upscale and craft better inks, what you need to do now is you need to take that cinder essence you got from killing that armor, which was far more important than the piece of netherite scrap it left behind. You want to get 2 arcane essence, 4 iron ingots, and a cauldron. You want to craft those together into the alchemist cauldron. Put alchemist cauldron down, give it a heat source, and you can get to crafting more powerful inks. So ink crafting is a rather interesting process. The basics of it is you can either extract ink from spell scrolls of different power levels, or you can upscale inks. If we press R on common ink, we will see that common ink can only be crafted via stripping low-level spell scrolls of their ink or killing enemies. But the higher level spell scrolls can be crafted by combining multiple common ink and iron to create an uncommon, and it continues scaling upwards. If we want to make rare ink, then that will be 4 uncommon ink and an iron will turn to a rare ink. Epic ink is 4 rare ink and a gold ingot will turn into epic ink, and then finally the legendary ink is 4 epic ink plus an amethyst shard will turn into a legendary ink. So let's go first and strip a basic scroll of its ink. Now this is a guaranteed process, however, so we will have at least 2 tries. So to start with, we want to put water in the cauldron for the stripping process. Then we want to right click onto the cauldron with the level 1 scroll, and it will spin around. And it may or may not have turned into ink. We'll take a bottle and we'll take a sample. And that is just water. Not what we want at all. So we have to simply put try again. We have another level 1 spell scroll. We'll throw that in there. And we'll see if it strips of its ink. And there we go. You saw it got a little darker there. We can then take a glass bottle and we can scoop out 1 ink from that. Now we've got an epic one. And there we go. We can extract some epic ink from that. If you want the more guaranteed method, which is a lot more expensive, it works a little bit differently than what you expect. So we're going to empty out the cauldron here. We're going to be filling it with ink. Now, it is 4 common ink to get to the next level of uncommon. So we'll take 4 common ink in hand, and we'll fill the cauldron up with nice dark ink. We'll take 1 copper ingot, we'll add it into the mix, and that will boil all the way down into a singular uncommon. Upscale that, put all that green ink in there, 1 iron ingot, and again it scales down into the darker blue ink, giving us that rare ink. And so on, all the way until getting the epic ink. Now each different school of spells has a different spell crafting catalyst. There is the invocation spells, which catalyst is emeralds. This gives you Fang Strikes, Firecracker, Fang Wards, the very mundane Minecrafty spells. Ender Pearls will give you Ender Magic. This gives you basic stuff like Dragon's Breath, Magic Missile, and higher levels, things like Teleportation. Blood Magic, we have a vial of blood for our catalyst, and we put that in there. We can see we have Heartstop, Ray of Siphon, Blood Needle, Bloodstep Devour, Raise Dead, and a whole list of things. What's interesting is we throw back in the normal common ink, we lose a lot of this list and we only have access to the lower level ones. So higher level gives you access to more spells and can give you access to more powerful spells. Now, if we choose to make Heartstop here, this will give us Heartstop level 1. If we instead use rare ink and blood magic to make Heartstop, this will give us rare Heartstop level 6. And obviously, the higher level one has a larger effect length, but also costs more mana to cast. Divine Magic is done with the Divine Pearl as its catalyst, and this gives us all sorts of cool spells like Cleanse, Haste, Angel Wings, Greater Healing, Sunbeam Heal, Divine Spite, Wisp, Healing Circle, Fortify. Frozen Bones, which can be gotten from strays, so a bit of a new drop, gives you a whole bunch of Ice Magic, Solar Summon Polar Bear, Ice Block, Frost Step, Frost Wave, Icicle. Very cool stuff. Frost Step is like a teleportation, so that can be quite strong. Useful spells to have hold of. Lightning in a Bottle is used to give you electric spells. It's a little bit hard to get, however, as you have to use an empty bottle on a charged creeper to obtain it. There we go, we got a charged creeper. And now we can yonk electric charges off the creeper into a bottle of lightning. These then give you a list of different lightning spells, including being able to call down your own lightning bolts. I think it's probably safer to try and find these out and about in the world than get them off the creeper, and it's probably actually easier to do it that way, although you could potentially make some sort of lightning bolting mob farm. Then we have nature spells, which are crafted through the humble poison potato, give you acid spray, poison arrow, oak skin, gluttony, poison splash, root fire, earthquake, all those fun things. Aspect of the spider, letting you climb. And then we have the ultimate magic, which is the Eldritch magic, which catalyst is an echo shard. However, you don't know any of them yet. This has to be unlocked through finding various different items, and we'll get to that at the end of the mod, so stay tuned for that. Now, if you want some good spells to start off with, then I'd recommend the Spectral Hammer, which is a mining spell. Spectral Hammer lets you mine mineable blocks. Now, the target has to be a mineable material, which means it has to be basic bitch blocks, not crafted blocks. So this is stuff like dirt and stone. And basically it will summon a giant hammer and smash those resources away. This can be incredibly useful for high-speed mining, as it's got a relatively low cooldown, and its mana cost isn't that high either, so you can get mining done fairly fast with the Spectral Hammer. And that is the basic of spellcrafting in Iron Spells. So let us move on to our next lesson, which will be another field trip, undertaken with a rather new teacher we've happened to acquire. Right, so now that you're a little bit stronger, we can undertake further and slightly more dangerous field trips. We've got some basic spells to help us transport our ways across the land. We've got our Wanderer's Mage gear to help us with our mana. We've got a silver ring, and we've got a fire immunity ring. So we're pretty good to go. So I happen to really like some of the traversal spells which allow us to travel a little bit better. These are spells like Ascension, Portal, and Angel Wings. Portal allows you to craft a portal from one location to another, acting a bit like the portal gun. It can be very handy to get around from one place to the other, especially if there's massive canyons in the way. Ascension lets you fly up into the air and basically do a super jump and gives you fall speed resistance. And then Angel Wings gives you a Elytra, which allows you limited flight. All these are very useful spells to craft for traveling around the landscape. Now, further locations to check out and check in with include going into mangrove swamps and swamps in general and finding these locations here. They all happen to have a piggy warlock in them, but as long as you don't piss him off, he's friendly enough. And there's also always the ultimate solution to all problems, which is boats. And while appearances may deceive, he's actually friendly and will trade with you for various different things. Of course, his trades, well, nice, simply put, are not worth it compared to what he can give you through other means. One need not always use sand to get what they want, but rather the blade. And there we go. And much preferable to his trades are all the loot he dropped, which is very nice for us. If you're lucky enough in your travels, you might also come across the Ice Shard, which can be fairly cool. This is a boat pierced by a giant shard of ice, and there will be hidden treasure inside it, which is usually by the back of the boat. Then you can find this hidden treasure, which will contain a permafrost shard, which is a nice thing to have, and some epic ink. Also, this bundle just happens to have 48 emeralds in it. Wow! So some good loot can be found if you happen to stumble across one of these, including some ice magic. Now, a location which is semi-dangerous to go to if you're not completely prepared is this Illager Tower. This place will be full of all sorts of opposition to your adventure, so best be prepared appropriately. has some imprisoned villagers, and it has illagers, so it's like any illager pillager outpost. It also has some hidden secrets in it, which are worth checking out. So, if you break through the floor in the main entrance, you can find your way down into a dungeon, and there will be hidden, usually behind a cobweb, chest right here with some fairly decent loot that can get you a good kickstart in the early game. Now, inside the church is a cheeky little hidden chest as well. Up here you can happen to find, which you have to climb up in there, and then you can find a thing all full of different kinds of loot, which can be very handy to get. But we can find a nice little library here with magic ring and more treasure, and a book that is worth collecting. And we can also proceed even further up into this tricksy little chamber here, which has some spell crafting and a jumping puzzle. And one of the platforms here will contain magical treasure. Now, all the way up there is a boss, but we're not quite ready to take him on, I don't think. So we're going to leave him until a later field trip. As for now, there's one other cheeky little location on this tower. Now, the final part of our field trip is a rather scary and dangerous location, and that is the ancient city. Ancient cities are notoriously dangerous, so do all the things you'd normally do for an ancient city. I will say, though, the portals will probably help you a little bit in traversing this spooky place. You can put one there, you can put one there. And that did trigger some noise. And we can go about looting this place as well if we try to be extra quiet. So our magic isn't the most quiet. And so may make things rather dangerous and spooky for us. But if you're lucky and careful enough and know how to traverse these places, the treasure chests in here have been made quite a bit more worthwhile with these ancient knowledge fragments, which you'll want to collect, arcane knowledge, and every once in a while a spell. Right. Now let's get on to magic item crafting. Magic item crafting is a pretty straightforward process, so we should be able to do it quite nicely. Right, so the basic to the magic item crafting, one of the things we really do want to start with is this magical anvil. This is the arcane anvil. It is made with blocks of amethyst, diamond, anvil, and polished deep slate will make the arcane anvil. The arcane anvil has many different uses, but for now we just want to make it. Now, further on to making magic things, well, it is quite the extensive task, so we'll need to go up to the bigger workshop upstairs. Now, to begin with, we want to make shivering stone. Shivering stone is made with raw iron and amethyst shards. The shivering stone is very useful because it can purge runes of their aspect. So if you happen to have a bunch of fire runes, but you want to make ice runes, then you can combine shivering stone with a fire rune to make a blink rune. The blink rune stones then can be combined with all sorts of different things to make aspected rune stones. So to make the fire rune stone, blaze rod. To make the ice rune stone, frozen bones. Lightning rune stone, bottle of lightning. Ender rune stone is ender pearl. Holy rune requires divine pearl. Blood rune requires a vial of blood. Evocation rune requires an emerald. Arcane rune requires arcane essence. Recovery rune requires phantom membrane. Protective rune needs pufferfish. And then finally, nature rune requires poisonous potato. These runes are quite expensive though, as it's not as straightforward as one-to-one. You actually have to surround the thing in its entirety, so they can get pretty pricey, especially when it comes to things such as the bottle of lightning, the frozen bone, or the pufferfish runes. The Arcane rune, I think, is one of the better runes to make, although even then Arcane Essence can be hard to get. So don't go hog wild making these things until you know what you want to use them for, because runes are also expensive, and purging a rune might not be worth it if you could instead use that rune for a different project. We'll get to what these runes can be used for in just a moment, but before we get to that, we want to look at a new resource being out of the game. When you're mining about underground, you might have come across arcane debris. This can be found anywhere in the overworld. It's a little bit rare, so it can be hard to find, but you can basically mine along and find this. Diggy diggy hole, diggy diggy hole. I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. Diggy diggy hole, digging a hole. Sunlight will not reach the slow, deep, deep in the mine. Never seen the blue moon glow. Dwarves don't fly so high. Fill a glass and down some meat. Stuff your belly at the feast. Stumble home and fall asleep, dreaming in the mountain keep. Born underground, suckled by a teethless stone. So once you've found the stuff, you can pop it into a blast furnace, and it will turn into arcane salvage. This will be useful in just a moment, but we have one more ingredient to cover before that, and that is making the arcane ingot. Now, the arcane ingot is any metal ingot surrounded by arcane essence. So it can be any metal in the center as long as it's an ingot, and then the essence around it will make an arcane ingot. And then you can take your arcane ingot, combine it with 4 cinder essence and the arcane salvage to make an empty upgrade orb. This orb can then be turned into various different upgrade orbs such as fire, lightning, all that stuff. Of course, you might be going, 4 cinder, that's kind of hard to get my hands on. And it can be hard to get your hands on. And that can be hard to get your hands on if you don't have the right tools to get your hands on. But if you know what you're doing, it can be pretty straightforward. So one of the things you really do want to have is that ring of fire immunity, because it makes this place way less scary. And well, on the surface, those pile scraps are few in between and will only give you a few. Here, in the end of all things, there is actually quite a few of those piles of armor if you know where you're looking. Now, I highly recommend getting the Explorer's Compass mod. It just makes mods so much easier if you don't want to waste your time exploring. If that's something you are into, though, you can keep the mod without it, but I recommend the Explorer's Compass. Then using the Explorer's Compass, you want to look for the very top of the list, which is the Ancient Battleground. This will direct you to a location in the Nether, which is very, very useful to find. Once you get to an ancient battleground, you'll find a location with a giant portal and many piles of scrappy armor on the ground. Now, these things, as you recall, were quite dangerous. They can one-shot the unwary unarmored adventurer. However, there is a solution even to these mighty enemies, which, even though they are powerful, they are not immune to the true beauty and might of the boat. For the Minecraft boat is the most powerful item in your arsenal in almost all situations. So when it comes to these buggers, you simply lay out some boats in preparation of waking them. Get out your pickaxe of choice and wake one up. And then it is contained. You have to look out for those AoE swings. But once you've got him, you've got him. Might just want to bring the old bow, which is perfectly valid as well, as long as they're trapped. And once slain, you can claim their cinder essence, the nether scrap they drop, and they also happen to drop quite a few iron nuggets. And then you can rinse and repeat the process of getting them into a boat and shooting them with arrows at a distance. And so now, with your wonderful supply of new resources, you can proceed to further crafting. So, these runes are very much the deal of you surround it and you get the rune of that type. So fire upgrade, you get that way, ice upgrade with ice rune, lightning, and so on and so on. Now, the basic elemental runes just increase the power of your power, but there are other better runes than the Power of Your Power, which happen to be the Mana Upgrade rune, the Cooldown Upgrade rune, and the Protection Upgrade rune. And each of these gives you spell resistance, cooldown reduction, and maximum mana. Now, how do you use these? Well, they are used with the Arcane Anvil in a combination process. So, to put it simply, you can take your Wanderer's Wizard's Cap, which gives you 25 mana. You can take the Mana Upgrade Orbs, throw them both in there. You hammer them together, and you have a Wanderer's Magician Hood +1 that gives you plus 75 mana now from that plus 50. Of course, it is a bit of a waste actually to use the Wanderer's Hood, as we have access to much better resources now. For if we take Arcane Essence and surround a piece of wool with it, we can make Arcane Cloth. Then we can take 3 arcane cloth, a leather cap, and a carved pumpkin to make the Scarecrow hat. And at a base, the Scarecrow hat gives us 3 armor and a max mana of 75. And we can make the rest of the Scarecrow set with Scarecrow hay bales, arcane cloth, more leather to make the coat. The pants are made like so, and the boots are made like so. Of course, if you want to go more specific towards the elemental type of armor, then you can instead put arcane cloth, which is rather expensive considering it requires arcane essence, into the patrons of the hat with a rune in it, the body with a rune in it, shoes with a rune in it, and pants with a rune in it to give you the various different armor sets. So our example armor set here is going to be the Plague set. Now, have you heard the tragic tale of Doth Plagueus the Wise? The Plague set will give us plus 5% spell power, max mana of 125, 8 armor, and plus 10 to nature spells. So it is a very good, very worthwhile. It is a high tier armor that gives you a lot of mana, and then you can fill it with all sorts of runes of spell improvement. So if we really wanted to upscale the power of our nature magic, we could take the nature orbs and our armor and combine them together and get much more powerful nature magic, that 15% there. And then we could throw some mana upgrades onto there as well, make it +2, all the way to +3 is what you can enchant your items up to. Now, does this work with a normal helmet? In fact, it does. You can get an iron helmet, a +1, +2, and +3, although I'm not sure why you would do that, as the Plague helmet is better armor, has way more mana. It's just a way better item if you can afford it, of course. Sometimes costs can be prohibitive. Now, it is not just those simple things that can be enchanted, though. You can also enchant staves. If we were to make a new staff, which is the Artificer's Cane, made with Amethyst Shard, Crimson Planks, and Gold, we can then take the Artificer's Cane, and we can also imbue it so that while we hold it, it will also give us additional mana while in our hand. We could give it perhaps the cooldown upgrade, as well as it already has better cast time reduction. And by giving it the cooldown, it will have 20% cast time reduction, making it so our spells will cast even faster. It's up to you how you wish to combo it, and then with it in our hand, of course, we can cast the spells to our own desire and light things on fire. A different magic item you can make more specific, if ice is what would suffice for you, would be you would take frozen bones, 3 arcane ingots, and you get a frozen helve. Then with the helve, you take that, you combine it with Permafrost Shard, and you get the Ice Staff. The Ice Staff, magic regen, ice spells and spell power is what it's for, so it's a little bit icy. And if lightning is what you like more, then you can take a bunch of bottles of lightning, you can take a block of copper, you can turn that into an energized core. The energized core is a little bit tricky to make work properly. You require a lightning rod and an active thunderstorm. Then you take the energized core, and with the rod sparking, you get it struck by lightning, combining into the rod o' lightning, which gives you better lightning spells for your casting. It's also actually an okay weapon. Now, there are further things we can also craft here beyond those simple staffs, such as the rest of the armor sets. So we've got the Fire set, the Lightning set, the Invoker set, the Cult set, the Ice Mage set, the Ender set, the Priest set, and the Battle Mage set, which is noted for how it is better armor in general, but doesn't specialize to any specific magic type. There is also arcane weaponry we can craft. If we combined 3 arcane salvage with 2 arcane ingots, we can make a weapon part. The weapon part that can be used as a handle with 2 diamond and 2 more arcane salvage to make a Spellbreaker. Spellbreaker is cool because it has an inherent spell built into it. It has counterspell. So if we press R, we can go and select counterspell, and then while holding it we can cast V, and we'll cast counterspell while holding Spellbreaker. Spellbreaker also deals fairly decent damage. The other item we can make with the weapon part is if we combine it with a chain and we get amethyst shards, we can make the amethyst rapier. The rapier is even faster than Spellbreaker but deals slightly less damage, and it can cast Echo Strike at the 5th level. Echo Strike will then imbue our attacks with a extra bit of damage which will hit for a second time afterwards. If we happen to have arcane salvage and 4 copper ingots, we can make a ring of recovery which reduces spell cooldown. If we use arcane salvage with 4 iron chains, we can make the heavy chain which gives us 15 spell resistance. If we combined just 1 scrap with 1 amethyst, the ring of experience which gives us a cast time reduction, and then if we combine 4 of the arcane ingots with a diamond, we can get the ring of mana which gives us 100 extra max mana. If we combine cinder essence with arcane salvage, we can get the fire ward ring which makes you immune to fire. Emerald Stoneplate Ring is made with Enchanto Bottle and Arcane Salvage, and this gives you more experience when killing creatures. Frost Ward, made with the Permafrost Shard and the Arcane Salvage, makes you immune to ice. Final Ward Ring is the Poison Ward Ring that is made with a Nature Ward and Arcane Salvage, and that makes you immune to poison. Conjurer's Talisman will make your conjurations more powerful. It requires a Skeleton Skull, String, and Arcane Salvage to craft, giving you plus 10 damage. Then the Amulet of Concentration makes it so you cannot be interrupted while doing a longer cast of a spell. This requires 3 chains and 4 arcane salvage. The Amethyst Resonance Charm is made with leather and amethyst, and this makes your mana regen 15% faster. And then finally, of the magic rings you can craft with arcane scrap and a bucket, you can make the Ring of No Affinity. The Ring of No Affinity can be combined in the Arcane Anvil with a spell scroll. So if we happen to have Arrow Volley level 1 and we throw it in there with the Ring of No Affinity, they will combine together into the Ring of Invocation Affinity plus 1 Arcane Volley level. Now we can take the Arcane Volley and we can go and we can add that to our spell list. We will then see that we happen to have level 2 for this spell in our spell book. However, if we go to our baubles and we replace that ring with the Ring of Arrow Volley and we look again, we will see now that we have level 3 with a little +1 next to it, and that is because we have leveled up the spell, making it give us 42 projectiles instead of the 36. If you want to upgrade your spells into more powerful spells, like that arrow spell for example, to get from, let's say, level 2 to level 3, you have to take the Arcane Anvil and combine it with ink to upscale the level. Boom! And that is the lesson for many of the crafting things.
Right, lesson 5. Yes, I labeled the lessons. In lesson 5, class 5 is Spellbooks. So let's go over them. Spellbooks are how you cast your spells. You can make more powerful or less powerful spellbooks, throw the mod and find them. We were using the basic Flimsy Journal to craft our spells. We can also make the Iron-Bound Tome for Iron's spells and spellbooks. Ironbound Tome is slightly better than the spellbook that we are using. This one has 5 spells versus 6, so a little bit better. Also, interesting enough, you can actually enchant the spellbooks as well. We could upgrade our Ironbound spellbook with Orb of Fire Magic, making it +1 and better at fire magic if we're so inclined, improving its quality overall in those areas. A more advanced spellbook we can make with that hot skin plus 3 iron and a arcane essence is the Apprentice spellbook. The Apprentice spellbook has 8 spell slots and at a base gives us 50 max mana, and plus 15 cast time reduction. The enchanted spellbook is a little bit more expensive, requiring 4 hog skin, 2 arcane cloth, 2 diamonds, and an enchanted spellbook. That will give us 10 spell logs and plus 10 mana. So it really depends on what you have interest more in, is either a few less spellbooks and reduction on your cast time at a base, or more spells and plus that 100 mana. Now there are more advanced spellbooks, but these are a little expensive to get, and you cannot craft them off the bat. So let's go over the more powerful spellbooks you have to find out in a modern world. And for that, we'll go to our expert in the field of collecting magical spellbooks.
Hello everyone, welcome to In the Field of How to Collect Spellbooks. Now, there are 2 ways to collect spellbooks: finding them out and about, hidden in dungeons, or killing other people for them. But remember, if the people are evil, it's not murder. A particular group that likes to hold on to spellbooks are these fellows here, the Villagers and Pillagers. The basic grunts are pretty straightforward to take care of. Basic magic spells can eliminate them rather quickly. But for the ones that are high up, hidden in their tower, you might need more powerful magic, unless of course they come down to face you directly. In which case then, you can fight them with your own supremacy. When slain, they will drop a multitude of items, as we might expect, but sometimes, if you're lucky, the residents of this tower, or invokers, may drop the Grimoire of Invocation. Of course, this is only a 1.3% chance of dropping if looted by a player, so it's rather unlikely you get it. However, it does contain inherent magic to it, which is pretty cool. Now, if you recall in one of your earlier field trips, you were prompted to collect the Researcher Journal. Well, it can come in use in a very specific and interesting situation. With a Researcher's Journal in hand, if in one of these places, now if you happen to find an Invoker Fort with the Imprisoned Trader in it, you can go trade with him for a lot of emeralds, the Research Journal, and the emeralds to get a translated Research Journal. He also might have some other useful things for you, like a bottle of lightning, but you can honestly leave this guy behind now. He has served his purpose, as you now have the translated journal. With the translated journal, you can go to the village priest, and if you haven't happened to have killed him for his loot, or you find a new one to talk to, you can trade him the translated journal for the village Bible, which is a new spellbook, which is pretty strong at holy magic and has a lot of mana. Also, when exploring out and about in the world, you can go into dungeons and various other things, and there is a very, very small chance that you will find a rotten spellbook. Rotten spellbooks aren't that great on their own, but they can be turned into more powerful spellbooks. And of course, if you're feeling more killy than aventurine, remember that demons aren't people, and so killing demons is a perfectly legitimate pastime. Now, sometimes after killing demons, there is a very small chance that blazes will drop for you the Blazing Instruction Manual. This is a spellbook that specializes in fire magic. Very nice, very hot, very spicy. If you are inside the ancient city, there is a chance that hidden inside chests, you will find a ruined book. This is not a spellbook on its own, but it can become a spellbook, so also worthwhile collecting. Ooh, also ancient fragments and magics. An array of siphoning. Very nice. Now, if you happen to not have a compass mod installed, like the Ruined Vine Compass, this mod lets you build a compass, and this is the Wayward Compass. The Wayward Compass is made with a soul lantern, iron ingots, and arcane essence. And when right-click, the Wayward Compass will show you towards the nearest catacomb. This contains basically the big bad boss of the mod. Now, if your spellbooks that you happen to have you feel aren't efficient for taking on a big bad boss as they don't have enough spell slots in them, what you can do is you can combine 6 hogskin and 3 arcane essence to make the lesser spell slot improvement. Then you can take a spellbook, you can put it into arcane anvil with the lesser spell slot improvement, and this will give your spellbook more spells, up to 12. And then once your spells are ready and you think you're good to go, you can travel to a catacomb. Catacombs, right away, are a rather dangerous place, and they can be pretty dark. So to see in them, we're going to get some night vision, and we are going to have some golden apples with us because they can be pretty dangerous. Catacomb is a big sprawling dungeon for you to explore. It can be a pretty fun challenge, and you'll find various different loots and treasure and enemy inside it, much like many dungeons. Basic arcane loot and knowledge will be yours for going into this catacomb, as well as basic supplies. And it's a great place to get some magic stuff done. Holy spells might be your best bet for taking this place down, as holy magic deals extra damage versus undead. Also be ready to take out their cheeky spawners hidden inside these structures. These are pretty big and sprawling dungeons. They can be pretty hard to traverse through, but once you've made your way through it thoroughly, you will eventually find the boss chamber. This boss is by no means an easy fight, so you best be prepared for it, having appropriate gear to take things down. The enemies may seem over-surmounting, but because undead are slow, it's just best to take out their spawners while you can. Try to find them. A little trick for you, besides divine magic, is once you get in, block the exit, so the undead can't keep pouring in through that way at the very least. Boss is going to be tough, so if you have buffing magic, it's best to apply it. Oak Skin reduces damage. Fortify gives you additional HP to play with. So, without further ado, we can walk towards the undead king sitting on his throne. This being the skeleton, we can punch him and say, "Wake up!" Then we can get Sunbeam ready. And of course, cooldowns where you are, we'll just have to do Scorch. Alright, here we go. Boss fight time. So Sunbeam is going to deal a lot of damage, and one of the things you want to do is you want to always be moving against him. And you can have spells to help you with that, so you can avoid various different areas. He will teleport as well, and sometimes he goes invisible, but your Sunbeam is one of your most effective items. Also, don't forget Smite for clearing out these hordes. It basically one-shots them. It also hurts him quite a bit. Ow. Damage. Apples can be good in a pinch, as can magical fortifications. There we go. Poison Cloud. Once you beat him the first time, things will go all still. And then stage 2 begins. Again, Smite is one of your best friends here. And Sunbeam. Sunbeam deals so much damage to him. So it can be a pretty good solution. Horrible undead monster. There we go. We can clear out the Vexes. With some basic attacks. And he will drop multiple powerful items, runestones. He will drop also the Blood Staff, which has better summoning and attack, so that's fun. And he drops the Necronomicon, which holds Blood Slash, Blood Sap, Ray of Siphoning, and Blaze Storm in it. And it is one of the more powerful books, so it's pretty cool to beat him with that. Also, hidden around the back of his domain, after you beat him, there's this little hidden sarcophagus you can crawl down inside. And mine open for a buttload of treasure, which is pretty nice to get as well. And that is getting all of the Spellbooks components in the field. That's how you can gather yourself some absolutely lovely spells. So I hope you found that very enlightening and very useful. And back to your classroom to figure out what to do with those things in the crafting you can do. Alright, enjoy.
Right then, here we are good. So, the spells. Let's look at them. These spell books that you can't craft normally, we've got the Village Bible, we got the Blazing Instruction Manual, we got the Grim Invoker's Grimoire, and we got the Rotten Spellbook, and we have the Rune Spellbook. All these useful in their own right. So, the Blazing Instruction Manual, we can just enchant into a better book, so not much information to begin there. Grimoire of Invoking, again, can just be crafted up. Village Bible can be enhanced, but the Rotten Spellbook and the Rune Spellbook we can actually do stuff with. So, first we're going to look at the Rotten Spellbook. If combined with honey and with this, Spore Blossoms, Glowstone ink, and arcane cloth, it can be turned into the Druidic Tome. So from this pretty crummy spellbook that gives you less spell resistance, we can get plus 200 mana, 10 spell slots, and plus 10 natural spells. That is, the main use of the Rotten Spellbook is basically to upgrade into the Druidic Tome. That's a pretty cool advancement. The Rune Spellbook has a bit of bigger destiny for it. So, if you kill the Ender Dragon, it will drop Dragon Skin. If you get 6 of this Dragon Skin and Obsidian, and combine it with the Rune Spellbook, you can make the Dragon Skin Spellbook. This is a Ender Spellbook, has 12 spells in it, plus 200 mana. It's pretty good. Also, it looks pretty. The other use for it is you can combine it with 2 blood, a netherite ingot, 2 arcane cloth, plus 2 arcane cloth, and a bottle of lightning to turn the ruined spellbook into the Ancient Codex. The Ancient Codex gives you plus 20 cooldown reduction and plus 200 mana, make it a generalist spellbook, not focusing on either specific spell type, but rather just boiling down into the pure magics. Also glows. Glows for a second here. Let's see. No Glogan. Come on! Yeah, whatever. Of course, the Necronomicon is the coolest spellbook. I mean, it gives you plus 1 to raise dead. It's like a necromancy spellbook. That's very cool. But it's up to you what you want of the 3 top tier spellbooks. I really like Necronomicon myself personally. And that is all the spellbooks and how to go through them and what to do for them, how to get them. And finally, we have classes, I believe, in the dungeon.
Now the arts of potions are not for the frail of heart, but if done correctly, can give one great power. So you will want to have your alchemist cauldron to begin with, then take 1 potion of healing, put it in, take a 2nd potion of healing, put it in, take the oak log and throw it in there, and once it has mixed around, take an ordinary glass bottle and you'll get the elixir of oak skin, giving you 20% damage reduction for 45 seconds. This can be further upgraded by putting 2 of them into the cauldron and throwing in an amethyst shard. This will mix together and it will give you the greater oak elixir, which is 30% damage reduction for a minute 30 seconds. If you want better healing potions, you can take 4 healing potions and fill the cauldron to the brim, then add an amethyst shard. The amethyst shard will then condense it down into a greater healing potion, giving you instant healing 3. If you take potions of invisibility and add 4 of them to the cauldron and add a shivering stone, this will turn into an invisibility elixir, which will turn one absolutely invisible, not leaving items in hands or particle effects. If one of these is applied to the cauldron, it can be combined with an amethyst cluster. And this will make greater invisibility elixir, allowing for 40 seconds of invisibility, and you can get 4 of them out of the deal. A further potion, if one's mana is not sufficient, is one can take an awkward potion and apply it to the cauldron, then arcane essence, and this will make a mana potion. The mana potion will restore 25% mana plus 5% of the max mana when drunk. The mana potions can be upgraded over and over again through various different steps, making them greater and greater and greater, much like most potions can. If you take tier 3 mana potions and you put 4 of them into the cauldron, and you add Ender Pearl, you will get Evasion Elixir, which will make it so you dodge 2 hits automatically after drunken for approximately a minute. If this Evasion Elixir is combined with Dragon's Breath, it will give you greater Evasion Elixir, allowing you to dodge 4 hits for a period of time. Anyways, now then, finally, onto Forbidden Magics. Gone through the potions, we're in the dungeons, so let us go down to the office. Yes, my office, which I believe can be found through one of these walls. This wall here. Unfortunately, I broke the book that lets me open. I got rid of the book that lets me open up the secret entrances. Right, so down into the Slytherin rooms we go, and into the teleporter. Right, so this teleporter should take us into the bathroom, which happens to be open up, which is excellent news for us. So we'll go down there. And once we get to the bottom, we should be able to meet our guide down this tunnel. I think we just need to take a turn. And there we go. This goblin should be able to show us the rest of the way. So we'll just follow after him, and he will take us where we need to go, which should be to the site where we can learn all the forbidden magics. Now, it was a bit dangerous, a bit of a secret way, but he's lived in these sewers for a very long time. He knows all the paths we need to take. Yes, right into the Chamber of Secrets. Here we are, and into Salazar Slytherin's mouth. I believe we have to crawl. And down one final drop, and the teacher of forbidden magic can teach us all of its secrets. Right, so, forbidden magic. Basically how it works is you take the ancient knowledge fragments. If you have 8 of them, you can combine them with 1 echo shard, and that will give you the Eldritch manuscript. You then eat the manuscript, and you can choose from a list of spells to learn. So there's a whole bunch of different ones, which is Plane Shift, Telekinesis, Sonic Boom, Skulk Tentacle, Eldritch Blast, or Abyssal Shroud. Each one has its own little power to it, and you hold down to unlock. Once you have it unlocked, it doesn't automatically give you the spell. You still have to craft it in a spellcrafter, but when you have them all unlocked, instead of giving you the scribbly dibblies, you can actually read these spells now and know what they do, and you can perform them yourself. So you can do all of the forbidden Eldritch magic now, such as attacking people with Yamate Kudasai. Oh my, that is horrifying. I was just joking. I didn't realize it'd be that much Yamate Kudasai. Well, I've seen this anime before. That is How to Iron Spells and Spellbooks. Yay, very exciting. So I hope you found that useful for entertaining. I went a little off my rocker there with the roleplay, but hey, that's what fun is about, right? Now then, in the comments, let me know your favorite teacher or favorite spell, and along with that, what house you are a part of. And I will award points to those houses for telling me your favorite spell or favorite teacher that was there, or I might take them away if I disagree with you. And at some point, I'll declare a winner of the House Cup. Of course, the houses that everyone know is Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin. So, let's engagement farm a little bit and have some fun with it. I'll let you know who my favorite teacher is because she was pretty cool. So, anyways, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Thank you to my patron, Blushfeather. You're awesome. And as always, until next time, thank you and goodbye.